Next game that we're going to talk about is a very intriguing one, in my opinion. The Chicago Bears at the Cleveland Browns, another early kickoff on Sunday, and we have gotten some more Bears action. This has moved from 3.5 down to the key number of 3 across the board. Total in this one sitting at 38.5. Adam, it certainly appears evident that the sharp money for multiple weeks now disagrees with what the odds makers are doing with the Chicago Bears, because this is now a few weeks in a row where money has come in support of the Chicago Bears. I know at our staff at thelines.com, we're at the point now where most of us have the Bears as a top 20 team in the NFL. They've been steadily moving up from the bottom of the barrel in the NFL. And now we have a situation where Joe Flacco is now the darling of the NFL. He's a 3-point favorite in the year of our Lord 2023 somehow. And I'm taking the Bears here, and I'll get into more reasons here in a minute. But I'm just curious if you and I have railed against the Bears and Bears backers for a lot of the season. They were the complete dumpster fire of the NFL in the month of September. But I'm curious now if you're starting to believe a little bit that this is closer to a league average team.
I can give you league average. Yeah, I can give you league average because of the fact that I watched a lot of Justin Fields from last week in that game against Detroit. I really wanted to get a sense of, is this something I can buy that Justin Fields is figuring it out a little bit? And it's better. It's not where it needs to be, but it's better because I saw Justin Fields multiple times still take too long in the pocket, take sacks, have to really work to throw the ball away late. Like, there's a lot in there that says to me, all right, there are problems. But I also saw a lot of possessions in which Justin Fields was able to drop back, hit his back foot, make the throw, take the short throw, know when to run. All of those things tell me that Justin Fields is starting to kind of figure it out. And I don't know that that means that the ceiling is where we initially thought it was, but it's at least not the floor that it was starting to look like for Justin Fields, where he was just going to spend 6, 7, 20 minutes in the pocket and, wait for someone to come hit him. That said, even though Cleveland's defense has not played up to the level that it did at the beginning of the season, this is going to be by far the biggest test that Justin Fields, or at least what are we going to call it, the new and improved version of Justin Fields has faced. This is going to be a challenge for him on a level that he has not seen yet against a Cleveland, wrong part of Ohio, the Cleveland defense that is pretty healthy now, has most of its pieces back. I actually think I'm on the other side of this with Cleveland, largely for the defense. Again, I might be proven wrong by this improvement of Justin Fields. It wouldn't be the first time that I was on the other side of it. I agree with you that they're a league average team. I also think that this Cleveland defense, again, at home, continues to be a defense that is a game changer for the Cleveland Browns, and Joe Flacco just has to be average, not elite Joe Flacco for them to be able to succeed.
It does look like Denzel Ward will play, their star cornerback for Cleveland. He got in a couple of limited practices to start the week with a shoulder injury. They will be without Juan Thornhill, it appears, one of their starting safeties. He's been missing some time. I think Kareem Hunt got in a limited practice on Thursday after being a DNP on Wednesday. So, and then I guess Myles Garrett is still fine.
Full practice on Thursday, yeah.
That shoulder injury. Yep. So he's full. So he's going to be out there. So we have to assume they're going to be pretty healthy here. For me, 3.5 is still solid for Chicago. I bought that. I agree. I would be a little queasy at 3. I think the hook is important here for me.
Well, and the other thing is, Stephen, where if you look across the board right now at this game, there are actually 3s juiced both ways. I would definitely say if you're thinking about the Cleveland Browns, you could even wait until one of those even money 3s. If it goes the other direction, right? Like if you feel like, oh no, Cleveland's starting to take some money coming back the other way, you could still get on 3 at -20 or 3 at, at standard juice. before it goes up to 3.5. It'll be out there for you somewhere, because I think if you want to wait, and if the sharp money really is coming in all on Chicago, then if you can get this to 2.5, then obviously you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame anybody for betting the Browns if this does get to 2.5. For me, though, when it's at 3.5, if we do get there, just in case people see this at any point and the number gets there, for me at that point, the handicap was very much just as much about the Bears defense as it was the Browns defense. And in fact, if you look over the past 5 weeks, the past 6 weeks, it's the Bears who have a better defense by EPA and success rate. And since week 9, the Bears also have a top 5 defense by dropback EPA, which is particularly important in this game because Kevin Stefanski is letting Joe Flacco throw the ball. They have gone from 27th in the NFL to 2nd in pass rate when it's a neutral game state, when the game is within 6 points either way. So that deficiency in the Browns defense defending the pass has gotten a lot better in recent weeks, and it's going to be called upon in this game. Absolutely. And the Browns defense also plays the number 1 rate of man coverage in the league. And typically that's a challenge for the defense when they're facing a mobile quarterback, unless you're going to spy them. So I'm very curious to see if Fields has some running lanes in this one, just based on the style of defense that Cleveland likes to play. The other side here too is, the Browns took another significant injury coming into this one on the offensive side. They're down another tackle. They're down to a 3rd string tackle on one side of the offensive line. So I assume Montez Sweat for the Bears is going to be picking on that side of the offensive line. So I'm curious how much time Joe Flacco is going to have to operate in this game. So I think I still think the Browns are more likely to win. I think the line implies that, but I thought 3.5 was a decent buy point. The last question I want to ask you about this game, Adam, there's been a lot of debate about NFL Coach of the Year at this point. For the most part, it's been Dan Campbell and Mike McDaniel as the favorites in the market. I think both those guys are extremely vulnerable. They wouldn't get either of my vote. And it seems like there's an interest in kind of the Brian Dable mold we saw last year, a team that wasn't expected to do much to come on, make the playoffs. So we have a couple options like that, and Shane Steichen, maybe Sean Payton if the Broncos make the playoffs. But isn't Kevin Stefanski a lot more live than the 14-1 odds indicate here, considering how many injuries they've had, considering that he's on his 4th quarterback at this point, and they're still going to make the playoffs, it looks like?
You absolutely can make a case for him. I think what's interesting about this year is that it's really difficult to make a firm case for anyone. So seeing, right now, DraftKings, Dan Campbell 2-1, D'Amico Ryans 3-1, it's really hard for me to get behind either of those, because you can pick pretty clear holes in just about anybody. The top 3 candidates, top 4 candidates for Coach of the Year on the board right now, and Campbell, Ryans, McDaniel, and Steichen all lost last week, and all lost in pretty spectacular fashion. So it's really difficult for me to get behind any of those. Stefanski at 14-1, I think the only thing that's working against Stefanski is a recent win of the award. I think what
True.
is interesting to me is when the board looks like this and there's so much variance involved, I think I want to look a little farther down and try to find somebody who I think could get some sentiment. Is this Cincinnati team going to continue to play the way that it has for the rest of the year? Are they going to maybe backdoor their way into the playoffs? It would be hard, but with the way the offense is going right now, would it be impossible? Probably not. Zach Taylor's at 22 at the moment. I don't know, man. Nick Sirianni is still out there at 30. I know he also is a recent winner. So I don't know. It's tough. I don't mind Stefanski at 14-1 to answer your question directly, but I also feel like they've got to probably win the division for that to happen. That's going to be tough with Baltimore out there.
I hadn't thought about Zach Taylor, but you make a very good point on him. Dealing with Joe Burrow from the start at the very beginning of the season and somehow navigating all this if they were to make the playoffs. I think, I wouldn't surprise me in the least if he's a finalist at that point. But the greater point here, everybody, is Coach of the Year seems pretty wide open right now. And
yes,
we're not sure the 2 guys at the top of the board should be the favorites. So something to keep an eye on there if you want to take a shot on somebody.